us on the show.
It's so awesome to be here. It's great.
So let me start with you, Sam. You've lived a life with the royal family. You've had everything handed to you, but you say your life has been hard, and now you've written all about it in your new book, Wah.
Delete that episode. That's what Meghan Markle reportedly demanded. Not from a tabloid, not from a troll, but from the creators of South Park. Yes, you heard that right, a cartoon. But not just any cartoon, the one that's mischievously roasted presidents, popes, and Tom Cruise in a closet just turned its flamethrower on Meghan and Harry. And let's just say it wasn't pretty. The parody? Brutal. The fallout? Immediate. And Meghan's response? An alleged full-scale censorship campaign that may have just detonated what's left of her Hollywood image. We're talking about the Duchess of Reinvention turned Duchess of Damage Control. Because when a 22-minute cartoon makes more people question your brand than a royal scandal or a primetime sob fest, that's not just embarrassing. That's a PR meltdown in real time. And the kicker? Harry's in the crossfire too. Did South Park finally say what everyone else was too afraid to? Or did Meghan's explosive reaction just prove every punchline true? We've got leaked reactions, behind-the-scenes legal threats, and a Hollywood silence that's louder than any royal press release. You're watching Chatterfuse. Don't blink, because what's coming next will stun you. Like, comment, and subscribe. The truth is messier than fiction, and we're just getting started. Now, most celebrities, especially the ones who've spent time in the spotlight, know how to take a punch. Maybe even throw one back with a clever tweet. You know, with a wink and a hashtag. But Meghan, she didn't laugh. She didn't clap back. She reportedly imploded. Behind closed doors, insiders say Meghan was livid. Not irritated, not mildly offended. We're talking days of rage, spiraling calls with legal teams, and, allegedly, a full-blown attempt to scrub the episode from existence, like it never happened. This wasn't just a bruised ego. It was, reportedly, PR crisis mode, and even her own team, blindsided. And here's where it gets wild. Meghan and Harry, according to leaks from both UK and US sources, actually explored legal action. That's right. They allegedly called in lawyers to investigate if South Park was defamatory, as if you can sue a cartoon for being too accurate. But the legal reality hit hard and fast. South Park never used their names. They didn't accuse them of a crime. And under US law, parody, even savage, uncomfortable parody, is protected speech. Meghan couldn't sue. She couldn't silence it. And that's when the real damage began. Because this wasn't just a failed legal play. It was a strategic misfire. One that made her look exactly like the caricature South Park portrayed. Overdramatic, media-obsessed, and completely humorless. And instead of making the story disappear, she gave it legs and a spotlight. She didn't bury the punchline. She blessed it with credibility. Suddenly, the satire didn't feel like exaggeration. It felt like documentation. A cartoon said she was fragile, and she responded by proving it. And if you thought sending in the lawyers was overkill, buckle up. Because Meghan reportedly didn't stop there. Sources say her team quietly launched full-scale damage control behind the scenes. We're talking direct calls, private emails, frantic lobbying efforts, all aimed at streaming networks in the UK, Canada, and even parts of Europe. The message? This wasn't just offensive, it was harmful. Allegedly, Meghan's camp described the episode as racist, dangerous for mixed-race representation, and a cultural attack wrapped in comedy. Strong words. But the resistance? Stronger. Netflix ignored it. Paramount? Not interested. Even local European broadcasters reportedly rolled their eyes. Here's why. The episode wasn't racist. It wasn't libelous. It didn't cross legal lines. It just crossed egos. And behind closed doors, industry execs knew exactly what this was. Not a fight for fairness, a power play. Another overreach by a celebrity trying to steer the narrative again. And when you go after South Park, of all things, calling it dangerous for mocking hypocrisy, you don't look brave, you look desperate. This wasn't censorship for safety. It was censorship for vanity. And that's why it failed, spectacularly. For a couple that spent years talking about media intrusion, Meghan and Harry sure don't mind calling in the lawyers when the press doesn't play nice. But this time, the playbook didn't work. Despite reportedly consulting legal teams to see if the South Park episode crossed a line, they hit a wall, fast. Because in both the US and the UK, satire isn't just tolerated, it's protected. And the worldwide privacy tour, textbook parody. No names, no accusations, just razor-sharp impressions that cut a little too close to home. Their legal team couldn't touch it. There were no facts to dispute, no lines to redact. It wasn't a documentary, it was a cartoon, and one with a legal shield stronger than any palace gate. But here's the kicker Meghan reportedly didn't anticipate. The harder she pushed to bury it, building slowly, the bigger it became. The attempt to silence South Park didn't make the episode disappear. It made it iconic. The louder the backlash behind the scenes, the louder the laughter got online. Memes multiplied. YouTube reactions surged. TikTok clips exploded. The joke didn't just survive, it metastasized. And in trying to smother it, Meghan gave South Park something no PR team ever could: free global publicity and validation. Because nothing proves a parody right quite like trying to erase it. Now, if Meghan thought Hollywood would rise to her defense, circle the wagons, release supportive statements, maybe toss her a tweet of solidarity, she was in for a brutal reality check, because the silence was deafening. No Oprah rerun, no Ellen nod. Tyler Perry, who once literally opened his home to the couple, not a peep. And Beyoncé, Queen Bey herself, stayed miles away from the mess. In Tinseltown, silence isn't passive, it's calculated. And this wasn't about fear, it was exhaustion. Insiders say the industry is tired, not of Meghan's story, but of the drama that always follows it. One former Netflix executive put it bluntly, she's a PR crisis waiting to happen. Another studio source described working with her as walking on eggshells, wrapped in red tape. What started as a modern fairy tale has quietly become a branding liability. Producers are wary, sponsors are backing out, and anyone still clinging to that victim of the monarchy narrative, yeah, they're starting to feel the whiplash. Because here's the thing about Hollywood, it's not loyal to people, it's loyal to profit. And when your name becomes synonymous with legal threats, public meltdowns, and censorship demands, you're not a rising star, you're a risk profile. And Meghan, she didn't just lose the episode battle, she lost the room. Of course, this isn't Meghan's first rodeo when it comes to controlling the narrative. The South Park saga? Just the latest headline in a long-running pattern of media suppression, one that's followed her from Kensington Palace all the way to California. Let's rewind. She sued the Mail on Sunday for publishing a private letter to her father. And yes, she won, but not without raising a few eyebrows about her motives. Then came the BBC. Meghan allegedly demanded edits to royal documentaries that didn't paint her in just the right glow. Too neutral? Not good enough. Soon after, multiple British tabloids were blacklisted completely, denied access to royal briefings, official events, even public statements. And here's the twist. The control didn't stop when she left the firm. Once under the Hollywood spotlight, Meghan allegedly pushed for editorial oversight at Spotify. Sources say she clashed with producers over tone, framing, even topic approvals. Translation: if it wasn't on brand, it wasn't on air. And over at Netflix, similar whispers. Meghan and Harry, insiders claim, insisted on rewriting narrative elements of their own docuseries, reshoots, re-edits, and one streaming executive described the process as, quoting flatly, relentless micromanagement. The message behind the curtain: if the content isn't flattering, it doesn't fly. This isn't about privacy, it's about power. And every time Meghan tries to bend the media machine to her will, she confirms what critics have said all along. She's not after honest coverage. She's after total control. And in today's digital age, where everything lives forever, and screenshots are currency, trying to erase the record only makes people dig deeper. Because the more she tightens her grip on the message, the more the truth slips through her fingers. And just when you thought this saga couldn't get more personal, it does. Because behind every public scandal, there's a private moment that cuts deeper. And for Meghan, that moment didn't come from a tabloid. It came from her own mother. According to reports from OK Magazine and the Daily Express, Doria Ragland, Meghan's rock through royal drama, Oprah interviews, and relentless media glare, finally spoke up. Not in front of cameras, not in an exclusive, but in private. Sources say Doria was deeply embarrassed by Meghan's response to the South Park episode, not because she didn't understand the sting of satire, but because she did. She reportedly urged Meghan to let it go, to see it for what it was, a joke, not a threat, a cartoon, not a conspiracy. But Meghan, in true form, didn't listen. And that quiet piece of advice, the kind only a mother can give, was ignored. What happened next, insiders say, was perhaps the most painful fallout yet. Meghan allegedly began to distance herself from Doria, pulling away from the one person who had stood by her, when almost everyone else turned their back. Think about that. A woman portrayed as fiercely protective of her image, now pushing away the only family member who's never sold her out, never spoken ill, never broken trust. Because when even your mother tells you to breathe, to laugh it off, and you choose to escalate instead, that's no longer about hurt feelings. That's about ego. And what once looked like resilience now looks like a refusal to be human. The internet didn't just react. It detonated. Within hours of the South Park episode airing, the memes came flying. Cartoon clips chopped into GIFs. Quotes turned into punchlines. And Meghan's cartoon counterpart immortalized in every corner of social media. Twitter, or X if you're fancy, had an absolute field day. One viral post put it perfectly. You're not oppressed if you're worth $100 million and crying over a cartoon. It was like watching the internet collectively roll its eyes, and then keep rolling. YouTube lit up with breakdowns of every frame. Titles like, South Park ends Meghan's career, and When Satire hits harder than the crown. Even the late-night circuit joined the pile-on. Talk shows mocked the meltdown, with one host joking, "We finally found something scarier than the royal family." Satire with a legal team. And then came the knockout punch, Saturday Night Live. In true SNL fashion, they didn't just reference the drama, they reenacted it. A sketch that mirrored South Park's parody line for line. Harry looking confused, Meghan demanding to speak to a manager. It was brutal. At that point, the cultural tide wasn't just turning, it had swept Meghan into the undertow. In less than a week, she went from Duchess of Sussex to Duchess of Delusion. And not because of what South Park said, but because of how she responded. Because in the court of public opinion, if you can't laugh at yourself, you'll be laughed out of the room. This wasn't just a bruised ego moment. It was a domino effect. And Meghan was standing at the front of the line. Not long after the South Park episode aired, Spotify made a quiet, calculated move. It dropped Meghan's podcast. Archetypes, once hailed as a feminist game changer, was suddenly labeled no longer viable. Translation? The buzz was gone. The numbers didn't justify the drama. Over at Netflix, the once hyped multi-million-dollar deal started to cool. Executives reportedly grew hesitant, not just because of South Park, but because the content itself wasn't performing. The Meghan and Harry brand had shifted from royal intrigue to reputation risk, and no algorithm on Earth could fix that. Then came the fashion fallout. Insiders say several major brands quietly backed out of endorsement talks, not out of scandal, but saturation. The image that once sold empowerment and elegance now screamed overexposure and controversy, and public sentiment followed. In the UK, Meghan's favorability dropped to a record low, just 22%, and in the US, where she once ruled the press circuit, the glow dimmed. Outlets that once tread lightly now ran headlines with zero hesitation. Audiences that once rallied were now rolling their eyes. And what triggered it? Not a scandal, not a leak, a cartoon. A 22-minute animated episode did more to unravel the Markle media machine than any palace drama or tell-all memoir ever could. Because in trying to crush the joke, Meghan didn't just validate it, she became. South Park didn't smear Meghan. They didn't need to. All they did was hold up a mirror. Exaggerated, yes, but eerily accurate. And when Meghan caught a glimpse of that reflection, she didn't shrug, she didn't laugh, she tried to shatter the glass. Here's the thing no PR team can fix. The harder you fight satire, the more powerful it becomes. By reacting the way she did, with legal threats, censorship attempts, and a full-blown meltdown, Meghan didn't just validate the joke, she became it. The episode didn't destroy her credibility, her response did. In a world where celebrities cry foul but cash royalty checks, where victimhood is marketed like perfume, and where control is confused with strength, Meghan Markle walked straight into the trap. No edits, no spin, no palace to hide behind. And what we're left with isn't a scandal, it's a lesson. You can't preach vulnerability, then silence every voice that disagrees. You can't demand privacy while live streaming your pain for a paycheck. And you definitely can't call yourself empowered if a cartoon sends your entire empire into collapse. So, now it's your turn. Was Meghan unfairly targeted, or did she hand South Park the script? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Tap that like button if you're still with us. And subscribe to Chatterfuse, because next time, we're peeling back the velvet curtain on Meghan's failed comeback and the A-listers who've stopped returning her calls. This isn't just about satire anymore. This is about a brand in free fall. And the world? It's not laughing with her anymore.